If anyone asked me which moment in my life made me feel like a stranger in my own family, I wouldn't hesitate to say it was the day I was appointed creative director at an advertising agency in Austin. That should have been the happiest day of my life, a milestone I'd worked tirelessly for years to achieve. Yet, that very day taught me a harsh truth. Family isn't always about love. Sometimes it's just a web of obligations that drains your faith and tears. My name is Rachel Miller, and I'm 32 years old. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. From a young age, I knew that if I wanted a secure future, I'd have to build it myself. I had no privileges, only determination and a burning desire to prove myself. Throughout my youth, I worked relentlessly. Scholarships, part-time jobs, sleepless nights with an old laptop on the kitchen table of a cramped rented apartment. Every idea, every ad campaign, every first client, it was all built on sweat and perseverance. Success didn't come quickly, but it came steadily. By 32, I'd become a creative director, a position many of my peers could only dream of. On the outside, I was the epitome of the self-made American woman, strong, independent, successful. But beneath that veneer was a truth few knew. My family had turned me into a walking wallet, an endless ATM. My family consisted of 4 people: my father, Thomas Miller, a man who once dreamed of owning a business but was forever stuck chasing vague projects. My mother, Linda, who preached about maternal sacrifice but never hesitated to demand money. My younger brother, Ethan, 28, smart but lazy, job hopping and drowning in debt. And my grandmother, Margaret, the only one who ever made me feel safe, though her age and dependence on the family left her powerless against their biases. I used to believe that as a daughter, helping was a natural duty. When my father called, voice brimming with excitement, saying, "Rachel, I just need some startup capital. This business is a sure win." I wired the money, trusting he had a plan. But that money vanished into golf outings and lavish dinners. When my mother, teary-eyed, said, "Sweetie, I need knee surgery, and insurance won't cover it all. You're doing so well." I sent $5,000 without hesitation. A month later, I saw her posting spa retreat photos with friends in Arizona on Facebook. And Ethan, the brother I loved dearly, always knew how to exploit my soft spot. Once, his voice trembling over the phone, he said, "Sis, I'm about to get evicted from my Dallas apartment. Just $3,000, I swear I'll pay you back." I sent the money that night, only to see him flaunting a new gaming console weeks later. Over 3 years, those small sums added up. According to my accountant, over $50,000 disappeared in just 36 months. She warned me, "Rachel, you're enabling them. This isn't family, it's exploitation." I stayed silent, avoided the truth, and convinced myself that one day my sacrifices would be repaid with love. That repayment never came. I still remember the day I was named creative director. After the board meeting, I left the office with trembling hands, overwhelmed with emotion. I drove straight to my parents' house, carrying a small cake, hoping for a warm evening where my family would raise a glass to celebrate the success I'd poured my heart into achieving. The moment I opened the door, I saw Ethan sprawled on the couch, eyes glued to his phone, while my father buried himself in a financial newspaper. I announced, beaming, "I've been named creative director." Silence. My mother looked up, a faint smile crossing her face, but instead of a hug, she said, "So, you got a bonus, right? I'm thinking of trading in the car. It's been acting up." Her words were colder than any silence. Ethan glanced at me, smirking. "Lucky you, sis. Bet that director bonus is hefty, huh? Share some with your little bro, I need cash quick." No one said congratulations, no praise, no proud looks, just demands and selfish expectations. I sat there, hands still on the untouched cake, the candle unlit. In that moment, I realized I'd been deluding myself for years, believing my sacrifices would earn their love. In reality, I was just a financial resource, a bridge to their personal desires. As I left their house that night, the Austin breeze felt icy, but not as cold as the emptiness in my heart. I recalled my accountant's warning. "They won't change, Rachel. You're the one who needs to change." She was probably right. I'd lived too long in patience, believing blood ties equaled love. But the truth was dawning. I was just a limited guest in my own family. Somewhere along the way, a spark of doubt and rebellion ignited within me. It didn't blaze immediately, but it was enough to make me see that one day I'd have to choose, keep being used or save myself. I'm sharing this story not to complain, but to ask you, the reader, have you ever felt like an outsider in your own family? Have you been exploited under the guise of family ties? If so, share with me. Sometimes, knowing we're not alone is the first step toward rediscovering ourselves. Do you believe a single phone call can make your heart tremble? As if your family has finally acknowledged you after years of being overlooked? For me, that moment came one May afternoon when my phone lit up with Dad calling. My father's voice, Thomas Miller, was unusually warm and clear. "Rachel, come early, okay? We're throwing a party to celebrate your success." I froze. In an instant, all the resentment, all the wounds from being dismissed seemed to melt away. Every cell in my body sang. Finally, they see me. I sat still for seconds after the call ended, emotions flooding me. I thought of the years of silent sacrifices, the late-night money transfers, the quiet endurance. Maybe it wasn't all for nothing. Maybe this party was the recognition I'd craved. But the joy was short-lived as red flags began to appear. The first came from Ethan via text. "Congrats, sis. So, that director bonus must be pretty big, right?" Not a simple congrats on your success, but a jab aimed straight at my wallet. Staring at the message, I felt as if someone had doused me with ice water. I typed and deleted, "Thanks, why do you ask?" unwilling to spark another pointless argument. Before I could recover, my mother Linda called, her voice syrupy sweet. "Sweetie, I'm thinking of getting a new car. The old one's falling apart. You know how important appearances are. But we'll deal with that later. Let's focus on celebrating you." Her words sounded caring on the surface, but carried an unmistakable hint. "You've got money, so help me out." I forced a smile, brushing it off, but unease stirred within me. Days later, I opened my banking app and noticed odd withdrawals from the company account. $2,000 labeled emergency, $1,500 for medical costs. No receipts, no notice. It was them again. I bit my lip until it bled, my heart twisting. Over 3 years, $50,000 had vanished quietly. Even before I could savor my small victory, they were still treating my account as their personal piggy bank. I slammed my phone down, head spinning. I wanted someone to see, to tell me I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining this. The only person who could was Samantha, my friend of many years. That night, I poured my heart out to her. Samantha listened silently, then looked me in the eye. "Rachel, listen. This isn't a celebration, it's a trap. They're pulling you in to prove to everyone you're just their wallet. You need to wake up." I fell silent. Her words cut through the fragile hope I'd been clinging to. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind screamed to stay away, to set boundaries, to follow Samantha's advice. But my heart wailed. This is your one chance. If you miss it, will there ever be another to be seen as a daughter, a sister in this family? I remembered my grandmother Margaret's eyes years ago at my graduation, her hand holding mine as she said, "Believe me, your family will see your worth one day." That belief had sustained me for years. I couldn't let it go so easily. In the days leading to the party, I was torn. Every congratulatory email from colleagues fueled my longing to share this with my family. Every thought of those unexplainable withdrawals made me want to cancel everything. My heart and mind pulled me in opposite directions, suffocating me. The day of the party arrived. I looked at myself in the mirror, wearing my familiar black dress. I whispered, "Maybe today will be different. Maybe this time they really want to celebrate." But deep down I knew, today might be another day to get hurt. I gripped my car keys and stepped out of my apartment. The Austin sky was clear that night, stars twinkling brightly. I wondered, would this be the light guiding me back to family, or a deceptive glow leading me to a new abyss? I didn't know. I only knew I had to go, carrying both hope and fear. I chose to attend that party. And there, I faced a truth so brutal I'd never forget. A small name tag with two cold words, limited guest. If you find this story compelling, please comment why. If not, comment N. Your feedback will let me know if this journey has touched your heart. There are moments when you think you've grasped your dream, only to plummet into a dark abyss. For me, that moment was the night at a luxurious Austin resort, where I believed my family would finally raise a glass to my success. I stepped out of my car, my black dress catching the glow of the golden lobby lights. Inside, soft jazz played, and elegant laughter echoed. My heart raced. This would be my night, the night I'd be recognized. A staff member smiled, handing me a name tag. I glanced down and froze. Limited guest, drinks only. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but then I caught Ethan's sly grin as he approached, smirking. Sis, your drinks only, no food. Guess you're not important enough. Laughter erupted from my mother, Linda, sharp and piercing over the music. She covered her mouth, pretending it was a brilliant joke. Guests turned, some chuckling, others looking at me with pity. My father, Thomas, shook hands with a businessman nearby, glancing at me as if I were a server. In an instant, the room spun. I clutched the name tag, my fingers ice cold. The night I thought would honor me became a public humiliation. I walked in slowly, the chandeliers casting light on every corner of the grand hall. White-clothed tables gleamed, crystal glasses sparkled, and the clink of silverware rang rhythmically. But to me, everything blurred, leaving only the cold words on my chest. Limited guest. Guests passed by, some glancing curiously at my tag. A middle-aged woman leaned in, whispering, "Oh, why drinks only? Isn't this your party?" I forced a smile, but it dissolved on my lips, leaving only shame. Across the room, Ethan raised a glass of wine, his eyes challenging. Linda whispered to a friend, giggling loudly. Thomas was too busy shaking hands to care. No one stood up for me. In that moment, I realized this party was never for me. It was a meticulously staged trap to prove that no matter my title, I was still just their wallet, a second-class guest. I sat at a table, hands trembling, but instead of crying or fleeing, a strange calm rose within me. The pain of humiliation turned into something else, clarity. I pulled out my phone, opening the banking app. The screen lit up, showing the company account, where they'd drained over $50,000 of my hard-earned money over 3 years. Ethan raised an eyebrow, noticing me on my phone. Linda glanced over but quickly turned back to her conversation. Thomas didn't even notice. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the user management section. One tap, and all their secondary access, the privileges I'd naively granted, would be gone. I paused, my heart heavy. This was a decision I couldn't undo. Linda's laughter rang behind me, sharp as breaking glass. Ethan muttered to a friend, "She'll never do anything. She just works and hands over money." That was the final straw. I tapped. The screen flashed, access terminated for all secondary users. I closed my phone and set it on the table. The room's sounds continued, but inside me, a door had shut. 15 minutes later, Ethan's face paled. He yanked out his phone, frowning, tapping frantically. Linda's laughter stopped as she stared at her screen. Thomas frowned, exchanging quick words with them. All three turned to glare at me. I sipped my water, calmly studying the crystal glass. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of their stares. Thomas approached, his voice low and sharp. "Rachel, what's this about?" I looked up, my gaze steady. Check the notification. Linda cut in, her voice shrill. "Are you insane? Cutting off our money? We're family!" I stood, smoothing my dress, and smiled coldly. Family? Family doesn't make a mockery of me in front of everyone. Family doesn't treat me like an ATM. Ethan stepped forward, furious. "You've ruined everything. I have debts to pay, you get that? I needed that money." I met his eyes, seeing panic mixed with anger, but instead of pity, I felt an odd relief. I walked toward the door. The room seemed to pause, watching me like an outcast. Before stepping out of the chandelier's glow, I turned and said, just loud enough, "Thanks for the drinks." I walked away, my heels clicking on the marble floor like a drumbeat of liberation. The door closed behind me, the music and laughter fading, leaving me in the cool Austin night. On my chest, the limited guest tag remained, but in my heart, it had become a symbol of the end of years of being undervalued. That night, I knew a storm was coming. My family wouldn't sit quietly after losing their financial lifeline, but I also knew this was a turning point. From a second-class guest, I'd placed myself on equal footing, or even above, because I'd dared to say enough. And I wondered, when the storm truly hits, how long will I stand strong? If you want to hear more stories and struggles like mine and relate to them, check out my previous videos on this channel. Some knocks on the door aren't greetings. They're attempts to drag you back into the nightmare you just escaped. 3 days after the resort night, urgent knocks pounded on my small Austin apartment door. Before I could reach it, my mother's voice pierced through, sharp as if she were the victim. "Rachel, open this door right now, we need to talk." I took a deep breath. I knew this confrontation was coming, just not so soon. When I opened the door, my father, Thomas, stormed in, his face flushed, eyes blazing. Linda followed, lips pursed, and Ethan lingered behind, his gaze anxious but defiant. My once peaceful apartment suddenly felt cramped like a courtroom. My father started, his voice like a judge's gavel. "You've gone too far, Rachel. Cutting off the account in the middle of the party? You humiliated us. Is this a game to you?" I stood, arms crossed, keeping my voice steady. "It's not a game, it's a choice." Linda jumped in, her voice shrill, tearing through the air. "You owe us for raising you. Everything you have today is because of our sacrifices." I let out a dry laugh, foreign even to myself. Sacrifices? When was the last time you asked how I'm doing, Mom? Or do you only remember me when you need spa money? Linda's face reddened, but she didn't deny it. Ethan spoke up, his voice breaking with anger. "You've ruined everything. I needed that money to pay debts. Do you know how much trouble I'm in?" I turned to him, looking into the eyes of the brother I'd once protected, once pitied. "What debts, Ethan? Rent? Or the ones from buying another gaming console?" Ethan swallowed hard, his gaze wavering. After a moment's silence, he blurted, "Fine. Not rent. I invested. Crypto, stocks. I thought I'd double, triple the money, but the market crashed. I lost everything. Now creditors are after me. And you cut off my lifeline." The room fell silent. I could hear my heartbeat. For years, I thought I was saving Ethan from ruin, from the edge. Turns out I was just fueling his delusions and fantasies. I whispered, my voice trembling but firm. "So all those times you begged for money, it was for gambling? You turned my sweat and tears into virtual numbers?" Ethan looked down, silent. Thomas slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing like a final verdict. "Enough. He's your brother, your flesh and blood. Family helps each other no matter what. Rachel, you'll restore the account now. Don't make me get tough." I looked at him, a man who could have been my role model, now just someone using family to justify greed. A strange calm settled over me. "Dad, Mom, Ethan, over 3 years, I've given this family over $50,000. I've paid hospital bills, rent debts, even your so-called investments. But what did I get? A name tag calling me a limited guest at my own celebration." Linda flushed, ready to argue, but I raised a hand. "I've paid enough. Family isn't a bank, and I'm done being the wallet you all dip into." In that moment, I saw their faces shift, Thomas furious, Linda flustered, Ethan stunned, but none could deny the truth. I walked to the door, hand on the knob. They stared, shocked, as if they couldn't believe I'd do this. "What are you doing?" Thomas snapped. I opened the door, gesturing. "It's time for you to leave. This is my home, my only safe space. I won't let it be violated anymore." Linda shrieked, "Rachel, you're so selfish. We're family. You can't turn your back on your own blood." I stayed calm, turning the lock. Family doesn't make a fool of me. Family doesn't only call when they need cash. If family means letting my soul be drained, then I'm sorry. I don't need that kind of family. The lock clicked as the door slammed shut behind them. I stood in my small apartment, listening to their footsteps and grumbling fade down the hall. Then, only silence remained. I sat down, hands still trembling, but my heart felt oddly light. That door didn't just separate my apartment from the outside, it ended years of being undervalued and used. I'd once thought I needed them to survive, but in that moment I knew the truth. I didn't need a family like that. I didn't expect that closing that door was just the beginning, because behind it, they weren't done. They had crueler ways to retaliate. not with words to my face, but by humiliating me before the world. Some wounds don't need knives or slaps. A few lines on a screen can cut deep, leaving scars that never fully heal. For me, that wound came when my own brother turned social media into a weapon aimed at me. One Monday morning, as I prepared a pitch for a major client, my phone buzzed incessantly. I opened Facebook, and Ethan's post hit me like a punch. Some family members get rich and forget their roots. They cut you off, leave you drowning in debt. It's shameful to call them sister. Attached was a sneaky photo of me in my black dress at the resort, my face cold and alone. Hundreds of comments followed, strangers calling me ungrateful, greedy. Then I saw a familiar face in the shares, Linda. My mother added a crying emoji and wrote, "Heartbreaking, family is everything," and yet, my father, Thomas, didn't post. He just liked it. But that click hurt more than 1,000 words. I sank into my chair, my heart heavy. The pain wasn't just from the public's judgment, but from those who called themselves family. Before I could process, my phone pinged again. Ethan had been caught trying to sell details of my company's ad project to a competitor. I felt sick. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was raw betrayal, a deliberate attempt to sabotage my career, the one thing I still stood tall in. But instead of breaking, I forced myself to stay sharp. I opened my laptop, my clicks becoming my weapon. I screenshotted every post, Linda's share, Thomas's like. I saved emails from a colleague reporting Ethan's approach to the competitor. I called the lawyer who'd handled our contracts, laying out everything. She said firmly, "Rachel, this is defamation and trade secret violation. Keep gathering evidence, I'll prepare the case." Her calm voice reminded me I wasn't alone. That afternoon, when the client called about the rumors, I responded as steadily as I could. We don't focus on outside noise. Our priority is delivering the best results for you. Then, I posted a brief statement on the company page. We're focused on serving our clients. Thank you for your trust. No excuses, no arguments, just a concise line that preserved my dignity. I thought they'd stop, but days later, my family requested a reconciliation meeting at a cheap diner on Austin's outskirts, where neon lights flickered and grease hung in the air. I knew this wasn't about peace, it was about forcing me to back down. When I walked in, they were already there. Thomas sat sternly, Linda clutched her coffee, and Ethan avoided my gaze. My grandmother Margaret was there too. Seeing me, she gave a gentle smile, the one that had once been my only anchor in this family. Thomas spoke first, his voice barely containing anger. "Rachel, this has gone too far. Family can't be divided like this. You need to restore the account, drop the legal nonsense, and we'll go back to normal." I sat silently, sipping bitter coffee. Linda chimed in, her tone pleading. "Sweetie, we're blood. No one out there matters more than family. Forgive us, start over." I looked at her, my eyes firm. "Forgive you so you can keep using me?" Suddenly, Margaret placed her trembling, warm hand on mine. "Rachel, I know you've been hurt, but family. Sometimes you have to let go of grudges. Don't let hate tear us apart." My heart tightened. I loved her, and part of me wanted to listen. But I also knew forgiveness didn't mean opening the door to more pain. I looked at Ethan. He'd been quiet, but now he spoke, his voice low and bitter. "You did all this to prove you're better than us. But you forgot one thing. You're nothing without family." His words stabbed, but they also clarified things. Yes, I might not have a family in their terms, but I had myself, and that was enough. I stood, pulling out my wallet and placing a $20 bill on the table, enough for my coffee and a tip. I looked them in the eyes, my voice firm. "This is the last thing I'm paying for this family." Thomas frowned, Linda froze, and Ethan clenched his fists. Margaret looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I turned and walked out, the diner door closing behind me, muffling their arguments and disappointment. The Austin night was colder than usual, but my heart felt lighter. I knew this wasn't over. They'd keep coming, with new schemes or accusations, but from the moment I placed that $20 bill down, I'd cut the ties that bound me. And I knew one final confrontation still awaited. They say silence is sometimes the loudest response. After that diner meeting, I chose silence. No contact, no arguments, no care for the gossip out there. I buried myself in work, the only way I knew to heal. And then something miraculous happened. My agency landed a huge project. The client Ethan tried to sell out to chose us anyway. They said my calm, transparent handling of the crisis, without fanfare, earned their trust. The day we signed the contract, I stood in the meeting room, applause ringing from my team, feeling truly free for the first time. That success wasn't just professional, it was proof I didn't need family to survive. I could stand tall, even rise by believing in myself. While I climbed, my parents fell. Word reached me through old acquaintances. Thomas and Linda couldn't pay their mortgage. Their proud, spacious home was foreclosed, and they moved to a dim, dusty apartment on Austin's outskirts. I didn't gloat. I didn't pity them either. I just felt neutral. They finally had to live by their own means, not my wallet. As for Ethan, he hit rock bottom. His failed investments left him jobless, drowning in debt. Friends abandoned him, creditors hounded him. The brother who once mocked me had nothing left. One late night, as I worked at my laptop, a knock came. I thought it was a neighbor, but when I opened the door, there was Ethan. He stood there, gaunt, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders heavy with a storm of gloom. No arrogance, no mocking smile, just red, teary eyes. Rachel. His voice was hoarse, choked. I was wrong. I treated you like a wallet, not a sister. And now, I've lost everything. His words pierced my heart. For a moment, I saw the 10-year-old brother who held my hand running through the backyard, whispering I was his hero. I froze. Part of me wanted to turn away, to let him go. But another part saw this was the first time Ethan had truly broken, truly regretted. I pulled out a chair for him. The apartment was quiet, only the clock ticking. Ethan sat, shoulders shaking, stifling sobs. I asked softly, "Are you here for money?" He shook his head, tears falling. "No, I wouldn't dare. I just want a chance to start over." I looked at him, a mix of emotions swirling. Anger? Yes. Pity? Yes. But above all, exhaustion. I didn't want to nurture hatred nor keep enabling him. The next morning, I took Ethan to a community financial counseling center in Austin, where they offered debt recovery programs for young people caught in bad loans or speculative investments. Counselors helped with repayment plans, budgeting skills, and reintegration opportunities. At first, Ethan hung his head in shame, but hearing others' stories, I saw a rare spark in his eyes. I also got a friend to hook him up with a part-time job at a small bookstore in town. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay was modest, but it was a start. I didn't give money, I gave opportunity. And for the first time, Ethan didn't refuse it. Weeks later, I received a small card. The handwriting was shaky, but each word made my eyes sting. Rachel, it's not money, but the chance you gave me. I owe you. Thank you for still seeing me as your brother, even when I didn't deserve it. I set the card on my desk, staring at it. A tear fell, not from resentment, but from release. That night, I stood by my office window, looking at Austin's twinkling skyline. The skyscrapers glowed like thousands of candles. A quiet peace filled me. I thought to myself, family isn't just blood, it's respect. Forgiving at the right time doesn't weaken you, it makes you stronger. I knew I'd never return to the past, where I was an ATM. But I also didn't carry hatred. I chose a middle path, letting go, but leaving a crack for light to slip through. My life would move forward, free of burdens and ties. And I told myself, sometimes freedom isn't revenge. It's learning to let go with peace. Perhaps the greatest lesson I learned wasn't how to make money or fight betrayal, but how to set boundaries to protect myself. I once thought family meant unconditional sacrifice, but that's not true. Family only matters when built on respect, understanding, and mutual care. It's not a place to be used, but a haven to return to in peace. I chose not to hate, because hatred only weighs down the heart. I chose measured forgiveness, enough to give others a chance to rebuild and to free myself. That's true freedom. If my story made you reflect, leave a comment below. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Share so we can relate and learn together. And don't forget to follow the channel for more stories, ones that might touch your heart, just as this one touched mine.